kind of starts with, some kind of rough shapes. One of them is around really kind of overtly rhythmic stuff, maybe African or Latin. I'm always looking for something in that kind of area. And I really like extremes, I like I like music that has extremes of groove or extremes of power, but also extremes of kind of delicacy and beauty. So that's kind of another shape. So that kind of ended up in the Scandinavian night we did in Canis's. And then there's another shape called traditional Irish music, and over the years, and prior to my involvement, I mean, the festival has really done a lot of, major Irish traditional artists. So in the spirit of kind of not trying to avoid repeating yourself, kind of looking for some new things, slightly different things. So I think we've definitely done that in terms of traditional music this year. And then beyond that, always trying to find, some sort of outlet for maybe some emerging practitioners, particularly Irish ones. So we had some young Irish jazz musicians here this year. So between those kind of four, concentric circles and trying to find things to kind of drop into them. So that's kind of how it shapes up. It was really interesting, like earlier in the year we went through, because this is of course the 40th birthday of the festival, so we spent a bit of time going through a lot of the kind of collateral brochures and posters and things from the last 40 years, and it was really striking how often over that period the festival had been kind of savvy about identifying, initially in classical music, but then in other areas too, identifying, our important emerging artists, and you can see that, particularly in the classical side of things, you can see that artists that the festival was reaching out to even 30 years ago or more are now, major iconic figures in the world of classical music. So that implies that there's a kind of degree of musical literacy here that kind of makes the job easier, because it means that you can take a few risks, and people are open. And I found that one area, like for example, I mentioned it earlier, that I've kind of really focused on a bit over the last 6 or 7 years is particularly around things like African music, where the festival had maybe been a little bit light, prior to that. And so I kind of feel like we're all on a bit of a journey together, and it's always interesting each year to sort of try and prod that in a different direction or point it in a different direction and see if the audience will go with you. And the audience have gone with us, like we had a great night here with Anthony Joseph, who is a really, he's interesting. He's from Trinidad, and the music of the Caribbean in a way is very interesting because of course it relates directly to Africa, because it comes to the Caribbean via the slave diaspora from West Africa, but it's filtered through this very kind of Anglophone experience through colonialism. So for example, a lot of the songs in the old calypso, they have themes that would be very familiar to Irish people, because they have themes around the relationship with England and colonialism and things like that. And of course he now lives in London, so in a way there's a lot of kind of connective tissue with our own experience, And then here on Saturday I'll finish out my end with Basiku Kuyati, who's just this kind of V8 Rolls Royce of West African kind of groove music, and Mali is a country that's really going through, it's a little more stable now. It's interesting, like when we would have been booking him 6 or 7 months ago, the situation in Mali was a lot more volatile than it is now. They've just had an election and things like that, so that's kind of an interesting context as well. But I find the audiences here are, they're just great, open and up for it,